We've all got guilty pleasures. Mine is fortune tellers. I love visiting them. Tarot, palm reading, classic crystal ball, doesn't matter to me. I love all of it. I never believed in it for a second, of course, but it's like buying a lottery ticket. You're not paying $1 because you think you're going to win the big jackpot. You're paying the $1 because until they read out the numbers, you can pretend that you're going to win. You can spend the time fantasizing about what you'd do with the money, where you'd go, all of that. It's the same way for me with fortune tellers. Until they start getting things wrong, I can pretend that there's someone who can see the future, who can tell me how my life's going to go and what I can do to make it better. We all spend our lives fumbling in the dark, and it's nice, just for a little while, to imagine that there's another option. I have rules, though. I don't visit the fortune tellers in my town. It's too easy for them to have learned things about me in a situation like that. So I only indulge when I'm away vacationing or on business trips. And I visit each one only twice. Once to find out if they're right, and once to show them that they're wrong. I don't give any of them a second chance. How could I pretend that they might know the future when I've already seen that they're wrong? The magic is gone. The failures never bother me, though. Just because there's a world full of charlatans doesn't mean that there isn't a real fortune teller out there. I never thought I'd find her, but I was willing to keep looking. Recently, I was on a trip out in the Midwest, and I came across a printed sign staked outside of a rundown strip mall. Fortunes read $20. I almost ditched my lunch plans and went right then, but I decided instead to savor it and come back that evening. All day, I tantalized myself with thoughts of knowing the future, understanding my course at last. When I was finally free that evening, I returned to the decrepit strip mall and pushed open the dingy metal door with a sense of anticipation so strong that I could almost taste it. I found myself in a narrow, dimly lit lobby. There was a desk with no one behind it, but as I was looking around for a bell, a figure materialized in a doorway leading further into the building, lifting aside black drapes. She wore bangles, her hair was pulled back in a long ponytail. Her eyes were done up in heavy eyeshadow, and her hands were heavily tattooed, the pictures disappearing up into her sleeves. "Welcome," she intoned, gesturing me toward her. "Come, let Madame Olga tell you your future." I approached and handed her a 20, and she motioned me past into the back room. It was small, probably no more than 6 feet on a side, and mostly taken up by 2 wooden chairs and a round cloth-draped table. The walls, too, were hung with black cloths, and the room was lit only by a large candelabra standing off to one side of the table. In the center of the table sat a large quartz sphere on a stand. Madame Olga took the chair farthest from the door, and I sat across from her. The room was warm and smelled heavily of incense. The ambiance was perfect, among the best I'd ever seen. "Your hand," she demanded. I placed my hand in hers, palm up. Madame Olga studied it, first with her eyes, then tracing her nails across the lines of my palm with her eyes closed. I shivered at her touch. "Your path has not been an untroubled one," she told me. "I see darkness in your past, and pain." I muttered non-committedly. I didn't want to give anything away at this stage. "But," she continued, "you have a long life ahead of you. A long life, and a happy one." "Happy all the time?" I asked. Madame Olga's fingers traced a line, then paused, Her eyes opened to regard me, and I saw something like doubt there. "More so than most," she said, studying me. I smiled at her. "What drives me?" I asked. "Do I achieve it?" Madame Olga resumed her tracing. "You have a great hunger inside of you, one which pushes you onward. You try every day to satiate it, but I'm sorry, you do not. But do not despair. You never stop trying. It gives you your fire inside, this hunger. It leads you to great works." I leaned forward, intrigued. "Yes," Madame Olga continued, "I see greatness in you. Your name will become a legend. You will be known, renowned, and..." Here her eyes opened again, and again she sought out my eyes, uncertainty in her gaze. "Feared." I smiled again, wider. "And how does it end?" I asked her. "How do I die?" Madame Olga smiled archly. "Few truly wish to know. Are you certain you want that answer?" "Absolutely," I told her. Her fingertips ran lightly over my palm. Then she raised my hand up, closer to the candlelight. She stared at it in confusion, glancing briefly at my face and then back to my palm. You live a long life," she said. "No," I told her. I pressed my hand forward, closer to her face. "You saw something. Tell me what you saw." "I saw nothing," she demurred, leaning back. "No. Tell me what you saw." "Nothing," she cried. "Literally nothing. I saw no end, only blackness and blood forever." She pushed back from the table and stood. Her bangles jingled as she shook. "Tell me," I said, lifting the quartz ball from the table and thrusting it toward her. "Can you see into this? Tell me what I do. Tell me who I am." Her eyes darted to the ball, and I saw them widen. She stepped back, pressing her back against the drape-hung wall of the room. I watched her eyes flick to the doorway behind me, gauging the distance. "You saw," I said, delighted. "You actually saw. You know how this ends." "Please," she pleaded. She stepped slightly behind the candelabra. "Let me go." "In all my years," I told her. "In all of my many, many years, I have never met anyone who could genuinely see the future. You are the first. You may even be unique." Gently, I pushed the table to one side, widening a path between us and blocking off any escape. "So, will you let me go?" she asked, a quaver in her voice. I shook my head. "You've seen how this ends. How could I let you go? If I did, you would be wrong. I can't let that happen. Not to the first true seer I've found." She thrust the iron candelabra at me and tried to dive over the table, but we both knew it was fruitless. I swatted the candelabra aside, sending candles flying, and dragged her back across the table to me. I did not let her suffer. I worked quickly. But even so, the room was fully engulfed in flames by the time I wiped the last of her blood from my mouth. I left the remains there and strode calmly outside, brushing a cinder from my shoulder. The police would be there soon, I knew. But still, I stopped in the parking lot to turn back and look, to fix it in my memory. Such an unassuming place to reveal my destiny. I breathed in deeply, smelling the incense and the drifting smoke, and smiled. Her blood had tasted different. I could find others like her, now that I knew the taste. And if there truly are no others like her, I still have a long and happy life to find that out. Very long, very happy, and very dark.